them to anchor this business talk. Now, the ship can sail. Esteemed ladies and gentlemen, from wherever in the world you are joining us, I welcome you once again to this inaugural session of the US Nigeria Business Council's bi-monthly webinar series. What benefits should you expect as a participant in these webinars? Well, for a start, you'll be getting the insights from our guests, our resource persons, our thought leaders who are coming up to share their insights. Then you'll be able to network with stakeholders in the US and Nigeria business communities. Of course, you'll be able to also explore new opportunities for collaboration and partnership. Also, you should be able, from this platform, to stay updated on the latest trends and developments in trade and investment, economic relations in these two countries. We also hope to generate from this encounter actionable insights and recommendations that can inform policy decisions and investment strategies. And it's a good thing that you will know that you are a part of this. Now, the theme for today's webinar is quite an interesting one. It's a subject that remains to the survival of everything represented in this room. Whatever industry you are engaged in, be it agriculture, mining, oil and gas, construction, real estate, whatever, even the services, you already know that rising inflation rates have seriously affected the cost of doing business in Nigeria. The topic today is unraveling solutions to the rising cost of doing business. Being players in the same market space, the whole spectrum, whether it's a small business or a category king in any industry, all are experiencing the same constraints. I just want to share a few figures with you, just so we have a clear idea of what we're talking about here. I pulled some figures from the website of the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. I compare January 2024 food. I'm going to stick with food. Food inflation rates on a year-on-year basis was highest in Kogi State, 44%, Kwara, 40%, Rivers, 40%, Lagos, 38%, Bauchi, 28%. I could go on, but I want to keep it short. Now, to January 2023, 29%, Lagos, 27%. I'm not there. So to compare Lagos and Kano, 2024, Lagos, 38%, difference of about 11. In 1 year, that's a high rise. Kano, 2023, 24%, 2024, 30%, about 5 or 6%. Now, you and I must now admit that the gorilla in every business room has quickly become an elephant. But you are in the right place if you have been seeking solutions to the challenges all business persons face. Even if you are a career person at the moment and you desire to start your own business, you will benefit from this webinar. I know this because we have giants in this room who are poised to tame that elephant. Our speakers will be doing, amongst other things, examining the root causes of inflation in Nigeria. They will apprise us of specific government policies to control inflation, and they will be speaking to the effectiveness of these policies. They will also offer practical tips for businesses and individuals, strategies for navigating the market space we all share, and for taming inflation. Once again, thank you for joining us. Now, let's do some housekeeping. This is how this conversation will flow. You see, I'm taking charge now, right? Okay. Our special guest will have minutes to give a keynote address. Insights on the causes of inflation in Nigeria, current policy measures to impact the inflation landscape, and their effectiveness on the economy. Subsequently, our speakers will each be given 15 minutes to present on the subject matter. As a participant, you will get a chance to either ask a question or make your own contribution at the end of all presentations. This you will do either by raising of a hand or by typing in the chat box. I ask you to please keep your comments short and to the point. Now, if you raise your hand or your question and you find that your question or comment was already addressed in the course of the business of the day, please put that hand down. This is so that we can maximize the time that we have. Now, I also ask that you keep your microphone muted until you are called upon to ask a question or make a comment. At end of your contribution, do not forget to mute yourself. Also, in order not to distract participants, if you're not paying rapt attention to the proceedings, turn your video off. You can turn it back in when we've got your attention. Thank you. Now that we are done with housekeeping, it is my singular honor to introduce our special guest this evening. Of over 30 years, he has a diverse background in law and strategic studies. Having practiced as a solicitor, specializing in complex commercial matters, in public-private partnership transactions, and other investments, he has been invited to participate and speak at seminars, conferences, and workshops on PPP and investment in many countries. Our special guest represents Nigeria on the board of P3 World Council as a member of the organization's Global Advisory Committee. P3 World Council seeks to assist governments as well as professionals and institutions across the PPP value chain to be more people-centric and to establish strong governance mechanisms and robust public policies using global best practices. He is founding member of the African Center for Infrastructure and Regional Integration. He is also founding member of African Investment Group. He has been special advisor on infrastructure and on trade, investments, and tourism. He is also commissioner of the Tax Appeal Tribunal in Nigeria. Our special guest is Senior Special Assistant to the Nigerian President on Legal, Research, and Compliance Matters in the Office of the Vice President. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome Barrister Bashir to give his keynote address. You're welcome, sir. You have 10 minutes. The floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mojisola. This is an elaborate introduction. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much for organizing this webinar. Titus, thank you very much for contacting me. This is something that should be regular. First and foremost, I appreciate your efforts in the diaspora, all Nigerians who have come together to think about contributing meaningfully to the development of their motherland, because that is the way to go, and that is how other countries are actually pursuing their lives and are mostly prosperous. The federal government at the moment is very happy with the conduct and success of Nigerians outside the country, especially the professionals, including scientists, doctors, nurses, lawyers, accountants, academics, and those in the private sector engaged in various legitimate endeavors. The Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, by the grace of God, will continue to encourage diaspora Nigerians by bringing out, policies and programs that will be very attractive to them, especially, if they come together through the Nigerian Diaspora Commission headed by Honorable Abike Dabri. The Nigerians in diaspora should, I advise them to work very, very hard towards investing in Nigeria's non-oil sector, because the federal government is currently, dishing out, rolling out incentives to encourage non-oil exports in order to earn foreign exchange in agriculture, in the hospitality, in the health sector, education, etc. In the health sector, you will agree with me that we have very big opportunities for investment, and especially in the health sector and in the agri sector. If you look at, for instance, other countries around the world. For instance, the Far East Asia, some of them, their main exports, agriculture, basically, aside from technology. In Nigeria, we're blessed with massive arable land, and I will give example of cash crops like cocoa. Cocoa in the world now, the price is going up. And unfortunately, Nigeria has been reduced to, I think, about the fifth largest exporter of cocoa. We used to be number one by far. Now, Cote d'Ivoire has taken over, followed by Ghana, Cameroon, and some other smaller countries as well. So I think Nigerians should also endeavor to export in this very important cash product, because it will generate income not only to the individual but to the country as well. And the federal government is doing everything possible to encourage investments in that direction. And as well, states, especially states like Ondo, Oyo, and Ogun, where this is the home of cocoa. You'll agree with me that in the 60s, this is where the world's largest cocoa exports emanate from. And in hospitality, Nigeria is a blessed country when it comes to provision of hospitality, services. For example, in Abuja, we only have, I think, only one 5-star hotel. Why don't you, as diasporans, link up with your different connections and come up with other 5-star hotels, like, for instance, the Marriott Group, the Intercontinental Group, and many other international brands that are supposed to operate in Abuja. We only have the Hilton. We used to have the Sheraton, but now they have left. They've sold up this thing, and now it's Abuja Continental Hotel. But not only the 5-star hotels, there are other opportunities in smaller 4-star hotels and other hotels, in the states. We should develop also tourism, where, Nigerians can, visit one another, and other foreigners can come in and visit, places of interest. We do have selected, tourist destinations in this country. In all the states, we have some sort of, tourist attractions. So I think Nigerians should discover where to invest in. When you come to education, Nigerians still are, underschooled. When you say underschooled, I mean in terms of the secondary and the tertiary education. Nigerians in the diaspora and other, foreigners and other Nigerians in Nigeria should invest in education, because there's massive opportunity. Education is not only for social service, it's also a business, because you see, we have different segments of society. Some people want their children to go to private schools. Some people want their children to go to public schools. So it's just a matter of, getting more schools and giving more options to Nigerians. And furthermore, I will say that before I can also talk about measures the federal government is making against inflation and the rising cost of doing business in this country. The federal government is essentially making efforts to encourage local production of goods. And in that light, this will enable Nigerians to have cheaper goods. How do we do that? The federal government is making efforts to improve infrastructure to facilitate production and make Nigerian goods competitive in the African and global markets. Well, if you look at it, because of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which actually took Nigeria about 2 years to join, and in which case we lost, some strategic advantage, to other smaller countries. However, we can still take advantage of our population and resources and strength to dominate the African market. And the federal government is making efforts to ensure that our ports for exports, is revamped, and export of goods are made, very, very smooth. And also the federal government is working towards ensuring that people repatriate their profits, once they produce and export and the profits are repatriated without any hitches. As it is now, the value of the naira is, as you know, I'm sure you are following the news, is generally improving. So this will also, encourage, production, because as it is, when the federal government is interested in actually controlling the value of naira, you see that it is not really good for the economy, because the earnings that we have will actually be consumed by this intervention. The central bank is making great efforts to ensure that this thing is actually reversed. So in a nutshell, our people should understand that the federal government has also set up the Presidential Ease of Doing Business Committee. This Presidential Ease of Doing Business Committee is a committee, it's a permanent committee headed by one of the special advisors, and is constantly inviting suggestions as to what should be done in what area to encourage the ease of doing business in Nigeria. So one of them, I think, substantially is with regard to the ports, and our airports, and our currency system, the exchange rate, the subsidy. I know people will talk about subsidy. I'll have to talk about it before anybody talks about it. The federal government had, yes, the federal government, it has become very, very necessary to remove the subsidy, at least to ease subsidy in Nigeria, in the sense that our consumption of fuel, petrol especially, as it is, it's not more than 45 million, liters per day. These 45 million liters per day that is the country is consuming as of now was not the case before the removal of the subsidy. We used to import like about 9 billion or almost 100 billion liters per day, because most of those petrol is smuggled outside Nigeria to Benin Republic, to Niger, to Cameroon, and these people get very cheap Nigerian oil, and we continue to subsidize their oil. And with the removal of the subsidy, it has come to reality now that our consumption is about 45 million barrels, 45 million liters per day. So subsidy is a very good thing. It has saved the government a lot of money to enable development. So in that light, I think the people should understand that all the government is doing is to ensure, continuity, sustainability, and ensure prosperity to both the country and to individuals. And as Nigerians, we should be able to identify, our strengths as individuals, to see what we can do to uplift this country, especially those of you that are living outside Nigeria. I know you have a lot of connections. You know a lot of people in the different sectors, in businesses, in your academic, in the health sector, in the fintech industry, in technology, and so on and so forth. Try to, connect and then see how you can be able to bring them down here and invest, because Nigeria is a massive market that foreigners are willing and are trying to come, so that they can be able to make profit and then repatriate the their hard-earned foreign exchange. We want Nigerians to actually take the driving seat in that regard. The government is aware that there are difficulties here and there, and the president has really, really said it in different fora that all the hindrances that inhibiting foreign investments in this country will be identified and addressed. So in that light, I think we should have hope in this country, and we should work towards ensuring that we make our country, our motherland, as the first destination for investment as Nigerians. And in that light, I would like to hand over the mic to the presenter. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I was just thinking to myself, how am I going to tell him to close? Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm going to do a quick summary. Very quick. You did a lot in that 10 minutes. I was amazed. You encouraged those in diaspora to take opportunity and invest in the country, to engage in non-oil exports. You talked about investment opportunities in health, in agric. You talked about cocoa, hospitality service, tourism, education as a business. You talk about infrastructure development, and you prescribed what the ease of doing business committee would be advising the governments on. I suspect that you didn't want to go there, but you did make a case for fuel subsidy and how that it has released funds for the government to engage in efforts. Thank you very much. I know we will hear a lot from you when we take the general. Thank you. Okay, so we can move on now and introduce our first speaker. Now, this man is a serious accomplishment. I can tell you one thing. The pruning his very brief, and I say very brief profile, was a task. I hope I do justice to it the time that I have. He's a professional banker, a private equity specialist, development economics specialist, risk and insurance professional, and project manager. He commenced his career working for some of the top-line commercial and merchant banks in Nigeria, rising to the position of area manager before returning to the United States of America in 1999. His career spans managerial level positions in several top banks, including Santander and PNC Bank, one of the largest diversified financial institutions in the United States. At Citibank National Association in New York, he rose to be president in the global consumer group of the bank. He also served with Citi Smith Barney, the global investment outfit of Citibank. He served with Citi Insurance, he served with Citi Credit Cards, and he served with Citi Mortgage. He works as a sales specialist for major US insurance conglomerates such as MetLife Insurance, Nationwide Insurance, Allstate Insurance Company, Liberty Mutual Insurance Company, and Travelers. He served with the US Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation as Community Banking Relations Director. He served as Associate Executive Director with Capstone Financials. He currently serves as director in various organizations in the US, in Nigeria, in the United Arab Emirates, and the People's Republic of China. Dr. Kasim Bello co-founded and is currently the Chief Operating Officer of Afrique Capital and Equity Funds Limited, New York, USA, a private equity investments, wealth, and project management firm based in Wall Street, New York. Dr. Bello, I bid you welcome. I hope I didn't leave too much out. And I hope you will be as time conscious as our Barrister Bashir was. You have 15 minutes. Please take the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can everybody hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Amosun, for the brief introduction. Well, all protocol observed, I want to Dr. Tasolo Kere, the US-Nigeria summit for this program. Like Ambassador said, it is timely and is a well-informed decision to have it on the diaspora for the benefit of Nigeria. The information, the topic given to me is a little bit on the wide side. So what I've done was to narrow it down and make it a little bit more within the context of what we can throw into the discussion area. So what I'm going to do here briefly is to tackle three areas from all the wide scope of topic that was defined for me, which definitely cannot be addressed in 15 minutes. Number one, let us get ourselves to understand what we are dealing with in Nigeria in terms of inflation, directly connecting to the topic of the day. We have what we call low inflation, and we have what we call regular and normal inflation, and then you have what we call high inflation. Now, inflation on its own, on a general perspective, is desirable for every economy. It is not as if inflation is a bad thing, but we might tend to believe that, some of us might tend to believe that, oh, because there's inflation in the system, it is bad. What is bad, what is not desirable, is stagnation and deflation. No country wants to deal with stagflation and deflation. We are not going to that. And we are not also going into discussion relating to low inflation, because we don't have low inflation in Nigeria. And then regular midterm inflation, which is the regular inflation that flow with the economic system. But what we are talking about today, and we're focusing our attention on it, is what we call high inflation, which is spiking in Nigeria, and then we are breaking records on that issue for time being, because we've not seen a spiking inflation in Nigeria as high as what we are dealing with at the present. Now, let's what is the driver for inflation? Let's go to the next step after giving that background on what we are looking at. So we are focusing our attention on the spiking inflation and what actually led to it, and what actually can be done, and of course, what actually can be done to sustain the economy vis-a-vis the individual personal people in Nigeria and the businesses in Nigeria. What actually led us to this in the first place? It is possible that some of us might say, oh, yeah, what caused inflation is what we call demand pull inflation and cost pull inflation. We are not going to be talking about all those theories today. We don't need that today. What we need is to go practical and look at precisely what we can identify as the relative cause of the problem we are in, and then that way we can provide solutions into what we think we can amass in terms of solution to resolve the problem. Number one, why do we have this inflation at this time? There's a long-term perspective to it. The long-term perspective to it is the fact that we have a system in Nigeria that is completely disgorged with price level system and the market system, the commodity markets in Nigeria. For a long time, we have ignored, the federal government of Nigeria has ignored the tendency to address that. This thing in economics, they call it paradigm shift. What that means is that every economy, no matter which economy you are talking about, has a stage in the economic life where they have to realign and adjust into the global system. And we have actually arrived at that stage in Nigeria for a long time, but we tend to ignore it, thinking that, well, we have oil revenue coming in, we have resources coming in and there, so we can sustain the kind of lifestyle that does not need to address those paradigm shifts. No country can ignore those paradigm shifts when they do arrive. They did actually arrive in Nigeria a while ago. We ignore it, and that is the long-term perspective of what we are having. And I'll give you a short instance to that. Right now, when you look at 20 years records in Nigeria, we have price level increases. Again, price level adjustment and increases is a normal thing. prices do adjust on a dynamic basis in the economy. So it's not as if when you buy something this year, 5 years time, or 2 years time, the price will remain the same. No, because the cost structure for production and productivity does not remain the same. So price increases is just a normal thing. So when people in Nigeria are saying, oh, the price is rising, blah, 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 it is not the problem of the prices. Because again, price level adjustment and a realignment is a normal thing in any economy. But what is the problem is that there must be a balancing equilibrium between that price level increases and the rest of other markets and commodity or the other markets in the economy. Now, following what I said in the first instance about paradigm shift, the price level since 20 years ago, precisely, let's say from 2010 to now, which is about 24 years circle, I took an analysis, it has increased by 2,000% in Nigeria. 2,000%. Now, contrary to that, the side of it, the price level system is the demand system, and the supply side of it, of the equation, is not increasing, and which is the labor cost. The labor markets in Nigeria remain almost stagnant in the last 24 years. And that, when we did the calculation, that actually increased by less than 400%. Now, right there, there's no way we will avoid inflation. There's absolutely no way. Because at a point in time, price cannot continue to rise, and the labor market that's supposed to be the balancing side of it in the camp of equation will remain constant or stagnant or not increasing as much as effective on the other side. So that's part of the long-term perspective of why we have the current inflation. Whether we like it or not, that inflation will arrive when you have a defective structure wherein the price level system and the labor market system is not aligning. There should be an equilibrium between the two markets, but there's absolutely no alignment. We cannot even talk of equilibrium when there's no alignment in those two markets. Now, the next thing that we will consider, which is the big thing, which I see that we may have to talk a lot about in the discussion level, again, in order for me to wrap up what my session, I'm probably about half of my session now, is the physical and monetary inconsistency and incoherence. For goodness sake, we cannot plant a maize and expect to reap up beans. This is precisely what has happened to Nigeria. We have lived a life in which there is over-bloated spending that blew up the liquidity system in the country. You cannot have to spend 27 trillion in waste and management. If we go deep into that, that is the major crisis. There is absolutely no way we Nigeria could have escaped the current inflation that we have. That's a major one. Number two, we have an uncontrollable and desirable fiscal spending. The fiscal spending in the government is not acceptable. Currently not acceptable. It has eroded a lot of things in Nigeria, including the disposable income of average Nigeria, diminishing their capacity to purchase, diminishing their ability to earn enough as their counterpart abroad in order to make a living. And also it has, of course, we have prolonged mismanagement in the forest market as well. We know we are import-dependent economy, and largely close to 60% of our industries relied on foreign raw materials. And those of them that are even producing are largely multinational companies from abroad that will naturally bring in raw materials from their own countries or wherever. But the cost of doing business as far as sourcing foreign exchange has become extremely tough for them. And there's no way you cannot build that imported inflation into the system to impact on the life of the daily Nigerians and the businesses within the country. And generally, we have also been living a false hope life in Nigeria. And unfortunately, what that means is that the federal government suddenly was subsidizing virtually everything without an equation. without a formula to sit down and say, look, how do we scale this thing over a period of time so that people can earn enough income? Listen, when people earn enough income, they can buy whatever they need. They don't need subsidy. Industry don't need subsidy. Individual don't need subsidy. If income and the labor cost is equated to the price level increase, like I said earlier on before, we subsidize water, we subsidize electricity, we subsidize petrol, we subsidize even pilgrimage to the Holy Lands in Nigeria. Those are lives that we cannot sustain, especially now that we are facing tons of hardship, any revenue. So the goal here is that the federal government, like Ambassador said, have to earn import revenue, either from export or import locally generated revenue from within the country. And finally, what again, like I said, I have a very wide scope. I will leave that part of the solution, major part of the solution, to the discussion time. But I will not leave without saying three things that I think is a very important solution perspective for the federal government. Number one, we need to sanitize the system. We are actually embarked on false hope for a long time. The sanitation has begun by the federal government, the central bank, and we are seeing the result. That needed to be sustained. That needed to be sustained. I'm sure we are going to talk about that. There's a lot to be talked about that. Then we need to increase the labor cost. I know there's a discussion going on in the federal government. There's a need to form an equilibrium between that labor cost and the price level. It is in Nigeria, it is totally unacceptable. And finally, we need to give a breathing space to our industry. The current federal government or central bank policy, monetary policy, is tough on industries. They cannot accept credit. It's tough for them, but again, we'll discuss that in the discussion level. There are ways and palliatives that we can give industry and allow them to breathe and establish production so that they can impart that to the economy, they can stabilize prices, they can stabilize income, and they can even return back to the economy in terms of profitability. I think I would like to stop here.
Actually, you had more time, but thank you so much. I appreciate it. You know what? I'm not even going to try and summarize all that you said because you said a lot, and it was very eye-opening. You basically what you were just telling us that we have been mismanaging this economy. There's a lot that government has done, and perhaps they've started to do now. You talked about price level increases. Basically, it wasn't all gloom, but it wasn't very encouraging, I must say. But thank God that we're going to be dealing with solutions when we come to that section, when we're discussing. You talked about businesses having to leave because they could not maintain a good profit anymore. It's not very encouraging. We're an import-dependent economy. We all know that, and there's so many changes that we need to make to change things in this nation. Subsidizing everything, even pilgrimages. I don't even want to talk about that. Okay, thank you so much, sir. We appreciate you. We're going to need to take a short break now, so some of us can just take in all the things that Dr. Bello has said. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back after this advert from one of our sponsors. Please don't go. Thank you. Okay, it seems we're having a TH there, so we're just going to bring in our next speaker. Welcome back. Our second speaker today is someone you would describe as a career diplomat, having been trained in international relations and
Can anyone hear me? I think we have a Zoom issue.
I
Just
can
now,
hear
I can hear you.
but we could not hear the speaker.
The moderator.
Oh.
I can hear you now.
Well,
I couldn't hear the moderator.
Since Ambassador Bolaji is online and we can hear him, I think we just go over to Ambassador Bolaji to kindly go on with the presentation. And you're welcome.
Well, she
Yes,
was about to introduce me, and I think I'm well known to almost everyone. Thank you for having me here. I'm Ambassador Akinremi Bolaji. I'm Director Economic Trade and Investment at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I've been the head of Missionary Commissioner in Singapore. I've been Director for Consular League at the Ministry. I've been the spokesperson, and I'm glad to be here. I've served in the UN and the Permanent Mission of Nigeria, where I related very closely with my fellow speaker tonight, Dr. Kazim Bello. I'm glad that we are together tonight, and thank you for all that you have said. I am not an economist. I am an international relationist, and I've practiced this for over 30 years. I've been public service for about 3 years. So I'm going to speak from both sides because I've also had a stint with the private sector before I came into the public sector. In a simple term, inflation is a general increase in prices of goods and services in an economy. This is usually measured, by using the consumer price index. When the general prices of goods and services increase, it means the purchasing power of citizens have waned, have reduced seriously. That means much money is chasing fewer goods. So inflation is a reduction in the purchasing power of money. And nobody wants this. So you will see people fighting inflation. The challenge is that it's almost very difficult to tame inflation. Every nation at one time or the other experience inflation. It does not matter how they manage the economy. The United States, where I've lived before, the Western world, the OECD members, every country, African country, experience inflation. But what we need to look into is the efforts of government to manage this. Sometimes we often undermine the good life that people in the local community live just because they don't have light or pipe-borne water does not totally mean that their life is in shambles. They have peace of mind and they live among their people. They eat what they grow, and they hardly transact money through banking. But over the years, government is making efforts to formalize the economy. And this is very good because by so you can measure a lot of things. And this is why you can notice if there has been inflation. Generally, since the COVID-19, there has been high inflation all over the world. As you know, that many governments pushed so much into the economy after the COVID-19. There was a research in the United States that a cup of coffee in 1970 cost about 25 cents. But in 2019, the same cup of coffee cost $1.59. You can see the difference. You might not be able to measure clearly in Nigeria such price changes, but the truth is that every family feel the pinch and the effect of inflation. How? In their bills. They buy things in the market, groceries, the prices are changing, even in utilities. Recently in Nigeria, there was an hike in the cost of power, electricity, even rent, accommodation, particularly in cosmopolitan towns, are very, very expensive. So government, through fiscal policy, stimulate anti-inflation policies. And this helps to control inflation. And in Nigeria today, we must say that we are blessed with a leader that knows, a professional politician, I will call him, but more than anything, a businessman. This is someone who has been in business or in private sector before, but today is now in government. He's been the governor of Lagos State, and a lot of positive development that he brought into Lagos. We have seen that at federal level, and I can say that this has really stabilized the economy. A lot have been said by the SA on uh, the bound of naira versus dollar. But the important thing here is that the standard of living on average in Nigeria is improving. I can testify to this. So we should come to government policies that, particularly this government, a lot has been done, to control inflation, not just by uh, foreign direct investment, which the government has really stepped into, moving around the world, selling and marketing Nigeria. And I must say this clearly, that Nigeria is one of the best places you can invest. I love what my friend Dr. Kazim tried to say about. I heard him about some businesses leaving, but the truth is that most of businesses that are leaving are having general problems globally. Businesses that are leaving have problems globally, not just because of Nigeria. With this government coming into place, a lot of forex that were home to businesses have been paid totally. Government has offset all the uh, uh, outstanding forex forwarding. Today, the naira is rebounding just because of government policies. So we have a government, we have an head of state that is engaging in investment drive globally. And once there is investment drive, there is infrastructure development. You will see that a lot of prices, goods and services, their prices will come down and stabilize. But I can mention quickly some of the steps specifically that government has taken since President Tinubu came into power. Generally, traditionally, Nigeria increases monetary interest. This help to handle inflation. You know, uh, this government has targeted high rate of growth in our GDP, and this is really, really coming into place. I've spoken about investment in infrastructure. Uh, I don't need to mention all of this. It's a continuity from President Muhammadu Buhari, and it will uh, interest you that a lot of outstanding debt owned by the previous government have been offset by this government. So that's why what the SA said about removal of subsidy. Government didn't just remove subsidy to keep money in bank. They are using it effectively. When it comes to policies, there's a lot of economic discipline by this government, and it's pushing the farewell of citizens. This is very, very important. There is punishment for infraction, and you know that for the first time in recent time, a minister was taken out just because of allegation of corruption. That is a government that doesn't want the standard of living to suffer of common people. Because what brings inflation is when there is cheap money in circulation. Nigeria generally, the greater percentage of Nigeria is still an informal setting. But when there is infusion of unaccountable money into the society, it brings a lot of inflationary tendencies. So government is economic discipline one, but more than that, any form of infraction, this government frowns at it. This you can confirm. There is a lot of adequate performance and monitoring of all sectors. Every government offices are now on their toes. they signed a performance bond with Mr. President. You either perform or you get out. So even ministers don't joke. And once there is activity, once the economy is busy, once government is focused, you can be sure that there will be stability. And this is true. So what you can is being pushed out now from the Bureau of Statistics when you compare things. Recently, I heard that Mr. Femi Falana took legal statement to court that their price control commission has the power to control the prices of goods. But at the federal level, that is already been done by the FCC, PCC, the Consumer Protection Commission, and the Competition Commission. This is already been done. You will have seen them, going about enforcing prices. This is one of the government efforts at stabilizing the prices of goods. So government is controlling prices. Government is infusing, is mopping funds, excess funds from the society. Do I tell you about 4 policies that this government put in place almost immediately when it came in? Number one is the Finance Act Order 2023. This order defines the commencement of the Finance Act 2023 from 1st May 2023 to 1st September 2023. You might not fully understood the importance of this, but every public service know that this Finance Act order by Mr. President, an executive order, where Mr. President came in July 2023. The second one was the Custom Excise Amendment Order. As you know, Nigeria basically do a lot of importation. And when you see what government on custom excise tariff immediately injected into the community, in Korean Manufacturing Association of Nigeria, the Nigeria private sector was very excited at Mr. President's policy. Actually, there was a spending order for send excise tax, communication services, and the excise duty escalation. This order specifically addresses the telecommunication, and this order has been very useful in controlling prices. So we can see how effective this government has been in terms of inflation. But let's even come into maintaining security, because one of the problems with inflation is insecurity in Nigeria. When people cannot go to farm, others problem, you will see that has come down greatly. Government has taken the issue of peace very, very keen. As Mr. President knows how to speak to politicians and for them to make peace in their locality. There are still pockets of insecurity here and there, but generally there is improvement since Mr. President came to power. So apart from fighting corruption, which I've spoken about, there has been great improvement in the business environment generally, because more investments are coming in. They can trust Mr. President, one that is reliable. It goes about having business investment forum. And I can tell you that one is also being planned now in a matter of weeks here in Abuja. We will be having the Nigeria U.S. Binational Commission, the BNC. That's why it's very interesting that we are having this conversation at this time, being hosted by the new business. My desk actually regulates all the business councils, and I tell you that has also helped because we are not just leaving the business sector themselves. The business of government is to regulate private sector and ensure that they comply within the regulations. So we are doing this even to monitor what business councils are doing so that we can ensure that we are fair for everyone. So when you look at that trend, see that life is the quality of life is improving. The quality of services is also improving. The Minister of Power, policy, powers of I live in Abuja, and I can testify that this is the case. There is great improvement in electricity. So I've also spoken about global inflation, which is not only affecting Nigeria. So I think when you look at the focus of this government that is led by President Bola, you will see that it's targeted at putting more money in the pocket of India. At first, it looked like government is taking money from them, but now they can get value for their money. Nigeria are now getting settled with this government. They are giving this government the benefit of doubt. Within the period of 10 months, they've seen a lot of initiatives, a lot of projects complete. Lagos have the third Milan Bridge rebanded mission. This was in a very short time. The expressway is no bottlenecks now anymore. That has been removed, and you can talk about the way from Lagos to Castina, and this has received support of different governments in terms of funding. Because Abuja, from Abuja to Kano, and from Kano to Castina, this are around. So we have great in the international investor in the economy. We have great stability within the Nigeria environment, the Nigeria economy. There is a lot of job opportunities that are being created. Government is enlisting one that is cushioning the effect of the removal of oil subsidy out of petroleum subsidy. So we put all of this on the table. I think you're going to give this government high pass mark and excellent pass because of the that have been put in place within just 10 months. I like to stop here. I'm sure we'll have the I'll leave the rest to we are doing general discussion, and we can particularly on the investment infrastructure. I just led a delegation, even on social foreign direct investment. My ministry, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, have been the in Nigeria economic diplomacy. Thank you so much, Madam Moderator, and you listener.
I'm sorry, Ablaji. I don't want to run away, but Nigeria happened to me, and I'm back.
Okay, welcome back.
Thank you to introduce because who you are. As I was saying, our second speaker today is someone you would describe as a career diplomat. I'm sure I'm right there. Having been trained in international relations and diplomacy, he is particularly skilled in multilateral diplomacy, analysis of political economy, and security and defense matters. He is also skilled in strategic planning. As far back as 1998, Ambassador Bolaji headed the economic and consular desk at the Embassy of Nigeria in Addis Ababa until year 2000. Between the years 2015 and 2016, he served as spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In the period 2016 to 2018, he was Minister Plenipotentiary, Permanent Mission of Nigeria to the United Nations, New York. In 2019, he was Resident Chargé d'Affaires of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to the Republic of Singapore. As head of mission in the High Commission of Nigeria in that country, he organized Nigeria-Singapore Business Investment Fora and facilitated trade missions from Singapore to Nigeria, covering the oil and gas, consumer goods, construction, and agricultural sectors. While in office, Ambassador Bolaji also successfully expedited and hosted several study tours to Singapore for Nigerian government officials and members of the organized private sector. Ambassador Bolaji has facilitated trade and investment missions to several countries, including the Nigeria-Brazil Business and Economic Forum in Sao Paulo in May 2022, the Nigeria-Ireland Business and Investment Forum in Dublin in June 2022, and Nigeria-Indonesia Economic Forum in Jakarta in October 2022. Ambassador Akinremi Alade Bolaji is currently Director, Economic, Trade and Investment in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Abuja, Nigeria. Thank you. I lost quite a bit of your presentation, but I'm sure when we're talking solutions, we will grasp some of it again. Okay, let's take another short break. We'll be back to discuss with the panel. We'll take a short break now and we'll be back. Thank you. Do not go away. I think we may be having fresh technical problems.
We can hear you, Madam Moderator.
I know I am told to hold on for the adverts, so please hold on. We apologies. Okay, maybe we'll take the adverts at the end of this discussion. Well, welcome back. Let's engage our three speakers in discussions. Let's have some insights. As we said, what we need to do now is to actually crystallize these discussions into actionable strategies to empower businesses to successfully navigate this current climate. Oh, I think we have the adverts on now. I'm so sorry. Okay. Apologies once again. I think something may have gone wrong with the audio of the ad. When you continue, we're not going to be discouraged. We're going to continue. So as I was saying, we need to crystallize these discussions into actionable strategies, because that's why we're all here. We need to know. We're here because we want solutions to how to tame this elephant in the room. My first question to the discussants is about government policies and how effective they are. I remember a time when the CBN would publish working papers. I'm sure we all do. At that time, usually it was research, and it gave the public an idea of the direction of CBN thinking. And economists, academia, even business people would contribute. But now all we get are CBN directives. And I wonder if a no discussion situation has helped monetary policy. Is it effective? Would any of our speakers like to speak to that? Do you think government policies to control inflation have been effective? Dr. Bello, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Dr. Muslo. There's absolutely no doubt. Like I said, I pinned down my discussion. I kind of narrow it down because I know we are going to touch base with those discussion at this point in time. The government has actually embarked on a very effective milestone for the Nigerian economy. Again, when you look back at what I said earlier, for a long time, we have actually bastardized, mismanaged, and misappropriated policies in this country. For a sustainable long time, we have actually have people run the system that are actually defrauding the system itself. You cannot have effective economic system running when you have people deliberately frustrating the system they are supposed to be managing. So the seriousness with which the current government is managing the thing must be seriously applauded. And like I said, that sanitation process must be sustained. And we cannot afford to sleep at this point in time. Whatever the government is doing, either by the deregulation in the monetary policy system, in the forest market system, that forest market system was practically defrauded. There's no two other ways to it. That was why foreign investor and portfolio investor ran away from Nigeria. That is why they refuse to come back to Nigeria. You come to Nigeria, you do business, you cannot even your dividend. You cannot repatriate your sales revenue in order to restock your raw materials or your shelves. So we cannot continue those kind of economic system. So glad that this government is listening. The government is actually embarking on reformations, and we are seeing the benefit and the results in those times. In fact, there's something I said in another forum. For the first time in Nigeria, we are seeing a situation where the lag system is becoming more narrowed down in Nigeria. When you talk about policy lag in an economy, when you go to UK, US, or those developed economies, when their government institutes a policy, it germinates right away. It affects and trickles down the system right away. But in Nigeria and typical developed countries, those policies don't really show any effect until a much later period of time, maybe 3 months, 6 months, even a year at times. What we are seeing in the federal government policy is a determination to really sanitize the system, and this is working very well. Either you go through the foreign exchange market, the monetary policy system that soon puts in place to manage inflation, again, inflation that was self-inflicted. It wasn't caused by any economic problem. It was self-inflicted. And then I'm glad that the federal government is tackling all those. And like Dr. Bolaji Akinyemi said, a lot of things that the government is doing is really working. And my prayer is that the government should continue to sustain it and let's be prudent about it. And I see a lot of room for improvement. There's still a lot of things that we can suggest to government. There's a lot of other ways that we can we can turn around the economy for good. But for instance, there is a report that came out recently from the World Bank. The Nigerian economy as at 2022 was doing 455 billion GDP. But because of the inflation and the regulation in the monetary, in the forex market, that economy, we are now the fourth largest, number 4 in Africa. Egypt, South Africa has overpassed Nigeria. We are actually running at 253 billion at this time. But I know we're going to reach that 1 trillion economy if we can sustain what is going on right now.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bello. Ambassador Bolaji, would you like to speak to this? Perhaps you have, from the government side, you're one of us, or you're also one of them. Would you like to speak to this? Perhaps you have recommendations, new initiatives for regulatory authorities such as the CBN to consider?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think in talking about government policy, one of the things we first need to put in mind is the fact that we have a president who has the high capacity to put the right personnel in the right office. So you have square peg in square hole. And I'm going to say that the CBN governor, the Minister of Finance, have been able to tame inflation by their body language and by saying that it is not going to be, there's not going to be room for corruption anymore. Policies will have to be adhered to. And they are doing that. For the first time, the exchange rate in the black market was lower at the parallel market was lower than the CBN. Within this short time, the naira has rebounded, now going below 1,000 to $1. Who would have even imagined that? So we can see that putting the right people who are able to follow through policies has helped us. Number 2 is reorientation. Madam Moderator.
Yes, thank you, sir. I'm thinking, because we haven't had an advert yet, perhaps we should quickly take an advert, and then we'll come back to you. Can I just finish this? Sorry, please go ahead.
Can I just finish this? If we Nigerians believe it's only government that is going to turn things around, that will be an error. We need to build our trust level so that even international community can have trust that when you put in Nigeria in a place, it will deliver according to expectations. We have a case where Indians are being brought in, fellow Africans from West Africa are being brought in to do even many jobs that Nigerians could have done. And the issue is, they say you can't trust Nigerians. And even diasporas are complaining. Put your brother in charge of anything, put any fellow Nigerian in charge of any business, you will not get even your investment out, not to talk of gain. And it's not because they are not making money. So we need to have a reorientation that Rome is not built in a day, and we cannot cheat just because we want to break through. And so as government is fighting corruption within government, we the citizens also have to rise up to say, this is our country, we're going to build it, we're going to show that we are trustworthy people, we are people of dynamism who are ready to sacrifice. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. You are going to come back because we're going to ask questions from the audience. But first, let's take an advert. We'll be right back. Thank you. Welcome back. If you have any questions, please raise your hands. This is a good time to contribute. I'm talking to the audience now, or maybe you want to make a comment in the chat box. I think, Dr. Bello, you'd like to make a contribution? Well, I have a question. I have a question. May I have a servo? If we don't have any questions from the audience yet. I didn't really want to go here. I was tempted not to go there, but I must. I would like to ask, without a doubt, adherence to universally tested values have been known to shape the socio-economic well-being of nations. What part do you think negative factors such as corruption, security concerns, talent acquisition and retention, issues with that, limited access to funding, what do you think these have played in keeping inflation at such high rates in our dear nation? Because nobody seems to have talked to that yet. Would you like to speak to that?
Well, thank you, Madam Moderator. Again, these are those issues that you raise are part of the issue that we call extraneous factors leading into problems in our economy. Again, I try not to, like we said, go into the theory, the realms of theory, and we stay within the practical sense of it. And when we want to stay within the practical sense of it, it's precisely what you have just said. We have actually mismanaged a lot of things in Nigeria. And it pains somebody to see that we have people saddled with responsibility to manage affairs, and then they are coming up. We don't want to go into details of the pros and investigation, interrogation that has been going on in various government institutions, and like the central bank and various other institutions of government. But all this impacts negatively, of course, on the capacity of the country to generate.
My button should stop working. Oh, well, hold on, I'm in the wrong Zoom. Sorry, guys. I was doing another class. I accidentally came in here. Be back.
Yeah, sorry about that. So effectively, we cannot have those problems without getting into the kind of problem we have. And like Ambassador DMA has said, that most of us in Nigeria will allude to, it looks and it appears the current government is doing a lot in terms of trying to fix that. And of course, part of that is trying to identify capable hands that can truly designate and embark on those performance as the government wants to be. Again, there's no absolute doubt in the fact that those indices that you mentioned, corruption, bad management, people not being responsive in their jobs, and et cetera, could apply negatively on the economy. When you look at the federal FDI, that is foreign direct investment in Nigeria, it actually went all the time from when we have President Jonathan from 14 billion, and it came to $2 billion as of 2023. That is unacceptable for a large economy of Nigeria. The investor did not go anywhere. They only shifted base because they see in us that we're not serious. It's nothing, and they have started coming back from what the central bank governor is saying. And we can see traces of them coming back. And that is why I refer to, when I say sanitization, we need to sanitize the system to gain the confidence. Investors have trillions of dollars to spend, but they will go to the right place where they are wanted. And the right place where they are wanted, it must be a place where you provide the environment, you provide the security, you provide confidence, the credibility with which they can confidently do their business and try
Come back
and
to do business. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Bello. We have raised hands. I'd like to call Ngozi to please, Ngozi Onyekaba.
Kaba.
I
Yes.
hope I got that right. Please.
Yes, you did.
Go ahead, madam.
So thank you. I do want to start by saying thank you.
With us.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So I do want to say thank you to the speakers as well as you've done a great job, and Dr. Olowokere for putting this together. So I do have two questions, right? And I think specifically directed at Ambassador Bolaji. So the first one, I think he mentioned something around that they're already doing something around security, because I wanted to say that I think the bedrock of whether we want to come back and invest or whether we're Nigerians or not Nigerians, right? One big thing is security. So I do want him to, if he can, speak to what the current government is doing to improve security so that we're to come back and invest and know that first our life is safe. The other thing I would want him to, if he can speak to, if he has the time, is what's going on or what are they planning around youth unemployment? Because one big problem we have, the greatest capital you have in any country is your youth, right? So we all know what is going on. People graduate college, they don't have work, etc. So if he can speak to what they are currently thinking about or doing right now with those two, that would be really helpful.
Okay,
because I think those are all going to be tied to inflation.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I'm trying to keep the questions short. We are really running short of time. Ambassador Bolaji, did you get Ngozi's questions?
Yes, I had a little challenge with the first one, talking about insecurity, but I'll try. But I had the second question very clearly. Indeed, government has tried since the days of President Olusegun Obasanjo to beef up security matters. But I want to tell you that security challenges is a global issue. But yes, it has impact on investment. But it also helps investment, because the fact that there are challenges, it's an indication that there are opportunities. So wise investors know that wherever there are challenges, there are opportunities. Why we don't encourage or we don't need insecurity, but it also provides opportunity for partnership globally. And this government is doing that. And that is why you will see that in the Niger Delta, in the Northeast, in Southwest, everything is coming down because government is tackling it headlong. That you can attest to, that the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu has the, I will say, has the mind to really address this issue. Now, let me come to the issue of youth unemployment. Government cannot provide employment for the entire citizenry. It's not even the business of government. The business of government is to provide enabling environment. And this government is top of its own game. You can measure that by the number of youth that are in this government and the wonderful works they are already doing. Talk about the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy. Talk about even the Minister of Aviation, Minister of Trade and Investment, Minister of Youth, Minister of Women Affairs, Minister of Humanitarian. The percentage is higher than what we have ever had. And whenever youth are in government, you know that they are going to open doors for fellow youth because they understand each other's language. And so we are already having great number of youth that are going into businesses. And I want to say to you that when you talk about youth unemployment or youth employment, it is not by getting government jobs that the youth are employed. It is by motivating them to discover their giftings, their talents, and providing the enabling environment. Just look at the student loan. Do you know the impact that is already having in youth creativity and youth self-reliance, youth going into businesses? Not to talk about bring down the loan, the interest rate, So government on its own is infusing money into the market. The president is leading by example. He has brought in youth into the government. These youth are encouraging. And today, our unicorns are growing when we come into digitalization. And so I think this government is on the right path. And I want to encourage this sister, Ngozi, that has a question, that even diaspora, their confidence is being boosted in the economy now and investing in their fellow youth that are here. So we need partnership with diaspora and Nigerian government and Nigerian citizens to engage our youth. I've spoken about the issue of orientation. This is very important because if you don't build people's character and if you don't build their business understanding, you're going to be wasting your time because they're going to throw away everything you labor for because they don't have the right mindset. And so it is a collective responsibility of both the diaspora, the people in the country, to make sure that our youth understand what it takes to build an economy, to build a nation. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you so much. Well said, like a government official. We're going to take time to take all the questions at one go so that I answer those questions and then we can move on. I have, I'm sorry.
This meeting is being recorded.
Nigerians in the diaspora especially, that have anyone that has useful tips for improving Nigeria's investment climate should contact the FEBEC, the Presidential Ease of Doing Business Committee. It is a committee headed by Dr. Jumoke Oluwole. It's an active committee and is located at the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, opposite Transcorp Hilton, at the top floor. And you can do that. They have a website, they have an email address, and they are very active. So those who have very useful tips on improving Nigeria's investment climate, including our export drive, you should be able to send information or suggestions to that committee. And this is very useful, to be useful for everybody. Secondly, our people, the diaspora community should think of investing in the garment and footwear industry. And this industry is the industry that we can easily, set up industries, factories to export goods to Europe and America, and especially to America, to take advantage of the African Growth and Opportunities Act, the AGOA, which I think is taking extensive advantage. And some countries in the Southeast Asia, they're taking extensive advantage because food and the garment industry is not a footwear and garment industry is not industry that has strict control mechanism in the West. It's only food items that have some standards that you have to meet. But I think this is something that our diaspora community should think of investing in Nigeria. We have a very good, population that, you can be able to have cheap labor. I can't say cheap, but at least reasonably cheap labor. That is what China used in becoming giants in world economy, in the world export sector. So therefore, I think our people should think of investing in the garment and footwear industry here in Nigeria, in addition to the other areas I spoke about: agriculture, hospitality, and tourism, health sector, education, and so on. So food and garment industry think we should consider very seriously. At least you can partner with.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Solar Time, your hand is up. Would you like to go on now? Solar Time.
Madam Moderator, I don't know whether you can hear me. I can't hear anything from this side.
We can hear you clearly. Please go ahead.
Solar Time. Hello.
Oh, Solar Time, there you are.
Yes. So my question is, so we're doing work in Kenya right now, and we're looking at the electricity rates in terms of how they're going up, and the national electricity, which is KPLC, which is steadily increasing electricity rates. So solar is basically the best way to go to help deal that inflation in terms of electricity. So my question is that, how is the solar market in Kenya dealing with the electricity rates? And also, what's the how is inflation causing the impact for electricity rates in Nigeria?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'm calling Sonny Abasa. I hope I got your name right. Sami Obasa. Is your hand raised? Please go ahead.
Yes, you finally got my name right.
I did?
Yeah, it is Sami Obasa.
Sami Obasa.
I actually want to contribute. I want to join your call for action plan towards the inflation with the presentation made by the presenters. People see inflation as negative, but it's actually positive. It's positive, call it positive, because it induces investment into those particular goods in the basket that have higher prices. It brings a producer to come and sell their goods in those areas. It's an inducement for them, and that is where I want to leave action in them. You necessarily don't have to wait for foreign investors, chasing foreign investors all over the place. We are the we generally grow our own economy. We have a plan, just like the presenter about the government industry. It's actually not an information, it's actually not South Africa that benefit from the government tech industry to AGOA. It's actually the Chinese and the Indians that came and set up their businesses, employing ship labor across 7 years in that region. So, and I'm an advisor to one of the social business who went into that. So in those industries, we actually come there, and it is only when we need, when we're on the ground, producing, doing something that, and when we need foreign and technical partner, that is when we go for them, because to get them in, because we're already doing something on the ground, no matter how little it is.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bass. I apologize for murdering your name. I didn't realize it was that simple. Okay, we're taking Daniel Agaji. I hope I got that right. Daniel, are you raised? Mr. Agaji? Are you still there? Okay, if not, would any of the panelists like to answer Solar Time's question about the electricity rates, I think? Otherwise, let's take Ola Rahim. Ola, your hand raised. Please go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Thank you, Madam Madam Master of Ceremony and the host, and you have great team here. The two speakers, Dr. Bello and Ambassador Bolaji Akiremi, are people I'm associated with one way or the other. They might even now. Mine is just maybe of an observation. I heard Ambassador Akinremi praising the ministries, and he has named some of them, and the ministers. But I think we need to be brutally frank here. Most of our ministers and the ministries they preside over, I think they need to do more than what they are doing. Good job you guys are doing here, because if all that we have here are properly articulated, and I wish some of those ministries are either represented here or they have a way to listen to what the speakers and the other contributors have made, we'll have a better economy than what we have now. How do I mean that these ministers need to do more? We have some of these ministers, most of whom, like Ambassador Kiremi has mentioned, are youth. And you will now have private institutions even have the courtesy to acknowledge by way of, even if it's an email, to say, thank you, we have received your letter, let alone asking such innovators to please come around, let's talk. I have said it elsewhere. We are probably even punishing Mr. President because he's the one that is marketing investment drive for Nigeria outside Nigeria. And the ministers will go and accompany him. But right here at home, we have investors who have invested billions of dollars right here in Nigeria who need to speak to government agencies, but they are not ready to even listen to them. I've had calls to go to some agencies, and I dare mention Nexim in particular, that I spent 3 hours, and yet they ended up telling me that is after writing them, and there was no acknowledgement, and they now had to even ask me to say, unless I have an appointment. How do I have an appointment with you when I write you and you can't even acknowledge my letter, let alone ask me to come on so day to meet you? And I took myself there to go and spend 2 hours or 3 hours thereabout. It is frustrating. No foreign investors. Let's get the message right. Let's be clear about this. No foreign investors will come to Nigeria with their big investment unless they understand that the local investors are properly taken care of. Indeed, I dare say that with local investors that we have in Nigeria and innovators that are banned in Nigeria, if we make good use of them, this country will turn around for the better, that we attract foreign investors to join us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Rahim. Thank you. We feel your passion. Let's just quickly
I would like to comment on that.
Sahid, can you just hold on, sir? Let's take all the questions one time. We don't have any more time. And then we'll come back to you, I promise. Sahid Adeleye, your hand is up. Please go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're breaking, Mr. Adeleye, you're breaking. I don't know if it's the quality of your internet, but you are breaking.
The effort behind this, it's been a balance of both positive and... Hello, can you hear me? Is that better?
Yeah, a little better, but you could be louder.
I'll come. Yeah, hello, can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yes, it is better, but be louder, just a little louder. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, I just wanted to say thank you. It's been a pretty good dialogue of a balance of both challenges as well as solution. I just want to emphasize here, as some of the representatives says, it really starts with us. We have to learn to begin to leverage the power of positive speaking and accepting progress when progress is there. However, a quick question I'd like to ask is this. We do have some strategic international partners who are doing businesses in Nigeria. Reference to the Indian community, the Lebanese community, And these communities are doing excellently well. Okay, locally, we can talk about businesses leaving Nigeria, but these guys are still there, and they're at the forefront of a lot of our manufacturing industries. We see the plays that they also have with global investment, reference to India in particular, and how much they're influencing the globe. So my question is, how strategically is the government trying to leverage on this bilateral relationship with them, not just to woo investors, but specific sectors that these countries are taking the lead in globally to ensure that they also consider Nigeria as a footprint of the continent to scale in those different sectors? What efforts are being made to leverage that is the question.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Adele. We're going to take a final question. I'm going to go back to the panelists. Sudhir Jaya, are you there? Sudhir Jaya, I hope you're right. Please meet yourself.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much to Mr. Basir to inviting me to this platform. I'm really grateful to the other gentlemen. Once again, good evening. My name is Sudhir. I'm the MD of Akira. The main challenge is many terms and we currently have mentioned now that we need to talk solutions. Yeah, there are many when I'm with the Indian High Commission with the Indian government. Normally, we participate in many forums. There is a really very serious challenge. The businesses have gone down. World Bank report we have seen become even lower than Algeria. There is a challenge. What I mentioned the five to revive the business. One is another one is cost of electricity. Third one is cost of transportation. Fourth one is human resources, and the fifth one is just to market. If we are solving these five problems, we will certainly have and good business. We can buy cost of capital, then cost of capital down. Mr. Bhai has railway plan. We can buy source funding for. Also, cost of electricity sometimes. That's electricity too. You see, in Nigeria, is a 50 cent. Dollar 50 electricity. And the other country in Africa is 5. So you can imagine the electricity, how you can build this. You all know how cost of transportation these days are because of fuel subsidies and a lot of challenges, basically even on road and all those things. Skilled human resources, yes. If you see, even with the immigration, we have some system that are foreigners. We need to employ a certain number of so the skill in our current trying to implement a train. There are some trainers already working in Nigeria through the Indian government. They work with some agencies to train to develop resources. Access to market. We have more than 200 million Nigerians. Okay, so we have market already. Whatever we produce, we can consume here. So access to market, we don't need to even enough market. So all these already can be taken. He has mentioned some seriousness has to be done. I think somebody, Mr. Yes, I sometime 5 minutes ago, proposal has gone we have concluded everything, and then somehow person is replaced, and again we have to start afresh. There are some challenges, but the solution. So from my side, I can contribute to bring the capital down and capacity. The cost of electricity can we have electricity available here. The transportation for it. My son to Mr. Bola suggestion and Mr. Basir here. So raw material, all those produced in north is happening. Most goes and where much agriculture is. Special in special code for the transportation. That will come down. The cost of transportation will come down. Even the roads. That will also help the cost of transportation.
I have to let you go now.
5 points you can address. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry, but our time is really running short. Ambassador Bolaji, I think you want to respond, so let's take you first.
Okay.
One of the discussions. Response, please.
Thank you so much. Well, so much has been said, and I think I must thank all the contributors and those who have questions. Of course, I must thank them because of a good job. I will say I've addressed the issue of employment, and let me add the issue of complaining. Maybe they are not being promptly. I hope I know this is possible, but I don't know.
This meeting is being recorded. This meeting is being recorded.
Of the Industry Investment, or even Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, or any other agency for that matter, Ministry of Justice, that has something to do with investment. So wherever there's such problem, I give you
of 2025. I'm sure you'll hear more about that. You'll see the flyers from Engineer Titus Olo. Thank you for your dedication, and good night to you all. On this note, I now hand over to Olo to close out.
Well, thank you very much. I think it's pretty much wrapped up. I thank everyone, and then the place open for people to network, to collaborate, and exchange thoughts. And enjoy the rest of the evening.
Please post WhatsApp group numbers so people would be able to join. It's a chat.
1 second.
Okay. It's a really environment networking going, a lot of business developments just from being in the chat. I've been benefited from the discourse, some of the opportunities, and so many people on this platform actually have. So it's good to be here. So once the number goes up, please join. You can communicate it to those who are there.
Yeah, I just put the number here. So I'm trying to discover this. 1 second.
Okay. Our moderator did an amazing job. So please, everybody, help me appreciate her. She was awesome.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. It's four. I type the number here: 404-939-4030. 404-939-4030. Let me put that on the chat. 404-939-4030. Hey, I'll actually put the link there too. So if that's why able to click that link and join that, add via group, invite to group, copy, and this is the link right here. Guidance. There you go. There it is.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you so much. All right. So on that note, everybody, pleasant rest of the day. Fantastic week ahead. Good night and goodbye.
Good night, everyone. Good night and goodbye.
Good job.
Goodbye.
Sure. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pastor Balaji, thanks for a very...
Good night, everyone. I had a very, very, very engaging evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Olowokere. God bless you.
Is that Fidel Ewenren?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry I picked on you on the Akokite.
We are going to argue that for the next 10 years.